Hello, everybody, and welcome back to King's Advisors. I do apologize for the long absence in videos. With the exception of Reacher reviews, there hasn't really been a lot of stuff that I really wanted to talk about. What we're talking about today, I've actually been asked my thoughts on 2 or 3 times, so I thought it'd be kind of nice to make a video about it. As some people may know, Paul Giamatti recently did an interview with GQ where he kind of broke down his, most famous roles like The Captain and the Spy, The Holdovers, his new movie that recently came out, John Adams. You got to remember he was in Ironclad, which he played a really good King John in that. But he was asked basically, what role have you not been able to do yet? He said that he wanted to be a 007 villain. So let's look at what he said about what kind of villain he would play. Let's zoom in here a little bit so that everyone can see it. Now, he says he'd want an accent. Now, I've seen a decent amount of Giamatti's work, and he is very good at kind of being whatever the movie or film or TV show needs him to be. So an accent I think would be fine. I would expect something more probably Germanic. He says that he wants an animal, not necessarily a cat, but any animal, maybe, not a parrot or something real. My only issue with Giamatti playing a villain and having an animal with him is we've kind of entered this era of 007 movies that are more realistic and less caricature. And I feel like what he's describing here is more caricature. Sort of like Ernest Blofeld in the earlier James Bond movies. He had that cat with him and he was always surviving. And then he says he wants to be a guy who's all in fur coats and stuff. That'd be great. My issue with this is that, we're piling on trope after trope after trope. And while 007 movies don't need to be Oscar movies, there's no need for them to win every Oscar. There's no need for you to walk out going, oh my God, that's the greatest movie I've ever seen. They do still need to be taken seriously by the audience. And I think having Paul Giamatti in there as a caricature of a 1970s Bond villain, I just don't think it would hit very well. I do think he could do it. I do think Giamatti would actually be a pretty good Bond villain, but I think he would need to play it more seriously. I think it would require him to treat it like he treated John Adams. John Adams was a character study in A Founding Father. And I think what Giamatti would need to do is he would need to find any sort of villain and study that villain. And then he would need to become that villain. I think that's how he would need to do it. Off the top of my head, I cannot think of many Giamatti roles where he is a bad guy. And that's what 007 villains are. They are bad people. They are villains. They're not antagonists. I could see Giamatti as an antagonist, whether he's some guy that's kind of been thrown into something by the villain. Let's say, if you remember Quantum of Solace, you remember they have that big opera scene where all the different people of this organization are there watching it. You can't really believe that every single one of those guys is a bad guy. That Green, the guy up there in the booth, is a bad guy. But the other ones probably just want to help save the planet. So I think that's where Paul Giamatti would shine in a 007 movie. I think he would need to be just this guy that either believes in the mission or not necessarily a henchman, but just kind of a side character that Bond finds early, something like that. But a villain overall, I'm just not sure I can see it. But I am curious to hear what y'all have to say. Do you think Paul Giamatti would do a good job? Who is your favorite 007 villain? Because I've got one or two. I think Goldfinger is probably my favorite villain. Yeah, definitely Goldfinger. As always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and follow us on Twitter at KingsAdvisors_.